A monk sits alone in a monastery, copying an ancient text. His hands shake, his nose bleeds, and he swears he can hear voices whispering from the pages. He refuses to continue. The year is 1456. The book is still undeciphered today. Welcome to the world of demon manuscripts, where medieval scribes believed some knowledge was so dangerous it could only come from hell itself. Medieval Europe. Before printing presses, every book was copied by hand. Monks spent their entire lives in scriptoriums, transcribing the Bible, classical texts, medical treatises. It was holy work, meditative, safe. But some books were different. The Voynich manuscript, the Picatrix, the Sworn Book of Honorius. These weren't just rare, they were feared. Monks refused to copy them. Libraries chained them to desks so they couldn't leave, and the church tried to destroy every copy they found. Why? Because these manuscripts didn't just contain information, they contained something else, something that drove men mad. The Voynich manuscript, 240 pages of complete mystery, written in the early 1400s in a language no one has ever deciphered, not medieval Latin, not any known alphabet. It's filled with illustrations of plants that don't exist, astronomical charts that don't match our sky, and naked women bathing in green liquid connected by tubes. Modern cryptographers, people who broke Nazi codes, have tried for decades. Supercomputers can't crack it. Some think it's an elaborate hoax. Others believe it's encoded alchemical knowledge, instructions for creating talismans that allegedly grant power, formulas for drugs that induce visions, and rituals that the church declared demonic. When it was translated into Latin in 1256, the Catholic Church immediately banned it. Owning a copy meant excommunication or execution. Why? Because hidden in the magical nonsense were real things. Chemical formulas for early pharmaceuticals, astronomical observations that proved the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, scientific knowledge that contradicted church doctrine. The church didn't fear demons, they feared information they couldn't control. So they called it demonic and burned it. But here's the twist. These cursed manuscripts are worth fortunes today. In 2005, the Voynich manuscript was valued at over $28 million. A single page of the Picatrix sold at auction for $180,000. Rare occult texts are among the most expensive books in the world. Why? Because wealthy collectors pay premium prices for forbidden knowledge. The Vatican Library has an entire archive of banned books kept in climate-controlled vaults, costing millions to maintain. Yale University's Beinecke Library keeps the Voynich under museum-grade security. The same books medieval monks feared to touch are now investment assets, carefully preserved, heavily insured. The black market for stolen medieval manuscripts is worth hundreds of millions annually. Knowledge isn't just power, it's literal treasure. And then there were the chained libraries, real places where books were literally chained to desks so they couldn't be removed. But most books weren't chained to prevent theft, they were chained to prevent use. The Hereford Cathedral Library, the Francis Trigg Chained Library, books with iron chains attached to their covers, warning inscriptions, "Cursed be he who moves this book. Read at your own peril." What were these books? Medical texts describing anatomy, forbidden because dissection was heresy. Astronomical charts proving heliocentrism, banned because it contradicted Genesis. Alchemical formulas, outlawed because they suggested humans could transform matter like God. The chains weren't about protecting valuable books, they were about containing dangerous ideas. Medieval librarians were information jailers. But here's the disturbing possibility. What if some manuscripts were designed to cause madness? Modern researchers analyzing medieval cursed texts have found something chilling.
geometric patterns that induce eye strain and migraines, text layouts that create reading difficulty and confusion, repetitive phrases that function like hypnotic suggestion. Some manuscripts contain instructions written in contradictory spirals. Your eyes move in circles until you're dizzy and disoriented. Others use color combinations now known to trigger seizures in epileptic readers. Was this accidental? Or were medieval magicians creating psychological weapons, books designed to break the minds of anyone trying to decode them? The scribes who reported hearing voices and seeing moving letters, maybe they weren't experiencing demonic possession, maybe they were experiencing intentional cognitive attack, information warfare from the Middle Ages. So what were these manuscripts really hiding? Science. Medieval alchemists discovered early versions of sulfuric acid, nitric acid, and aqua regia, chemicals that could dissolve gold. These formulas appear in demonic grimoires disguised as magical spells. The Picatrix contains descriptions of psychological conditioning techniques, basically early behavioral psychology, written as demon-summoning rituals. The Voynich manuscript might be an encoded pharmaceutical encyclopedia. Those weird plants? Possibly extinct medicinal herbs. Those astronomical charts? Star maps for navigation. The church called them demonic because these texts proved the world operated on natural laws, not divine intervention. And that was the most dangerous idea of all. Knowledge that could make peasants question authority, that could make people realize they didn't need the church to understand the universe. That was the real demon. And some monks did break. 1552, Brother Thomas at Fountains Abbey refuses to finish copying a medical text, claiming the words burn to read. He's found dead 3 days later, his eyes hemorrhaged. 1497, a scriptorium in Florence reports 6 scribes falling ill while copying an Arabic astronomical text. All report identical nightmares of falling through infinite space. 1489, the prior of Canterbury orders a manuscript on Hebrew mysticism to be buried in the monastery garden after 2 monks go mute and refuse to speak again. Were these real supernatural events? Probably not, but they were real psychological breaks. Men who spent decades believing they were transcribing God's truth suddenly confronted information that shattered their entire worldview. The cognitive dissonance was too much. Their minds broke rather than accept the contradiction. And here's the final twist. Decoding these demon manuscripts has led to real scientific breakthroughs. Chemical formulas from medieval grimoires helped develop modern industrial processes worth billions. A 13th century Arabic medical text contained an antibiotic recipe that's now being studied by pharmaceutical companies. In 2019, AI analysis of an undecipherable alchemical manuscript revealed encoded instructions for creating early anesthetics. That research is now worth millions in grants. The Vatican Library opened parts of its secret archive in 2020. Researchers are discovering that cursed texts contain lost mathematical knowledge, extinct plant species, and medical treatments that predate modern medicine by centuries. The knowledge medieval monks feared wasn't demonic, it was just centuries ahead of its time, and the institutions that called it evil knew exactly what they were suppressing. So, the demon manuscripts weren't cursed, they were suppressed. The church didn't fear Satan, they feared education. They feared people learning that the universe operated on principles anyone could understand, that you didn't need priests to access knowledge, that authority could be questioned. So, they called it demonic, chained the books, executed the readers. And monks, good, faithful men, internalized that terror so deeply that just reading certain words made them physically ill. The manuscripts are still here. The Voynich sits in Yale. The Picatrix has been republished. The chained libraries are now tourist attractions. We've sanitized them, made them safe, scholarly. But ask yourself, what knowledge is being suppressed right now? What information is modern society calling dangerous or forbidden or misinformation? What books are being banned? What research is being defunded? Because the pattern doesn't end. Authority always fears information it can't control. And it always uses the same tactic: make people afraid to even look at it. The monks were terrified of demon manuscripts. What are we being taught to fear today? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What modern knowledge do you think is being suppressed? And if you want more uncomfortable truths about how institutions have controlled information throughout history, hit subscribe. Because the real demons were never in the books. They were the people who decided what you were allowed to read. Until next time, question everything.